Adonai Hashia Melech Yadeinu V'Yem Koreinu. So, good Chodesh, everybody. I want to start with this. You have it in mind. You have me just put on that table there. Thank you. So today is Rosh Chodesh Sivan, and the halacha is that on Rosh Chodesh we don't say Tachnun. Now this month we won't be saying Tachnun from now until and including the 12th day of the month. What's the reason for that? The reason is, even the Shavuos is just 2 days, but the halach is that if every yontiv you have to bring a korban. And if you didn't bring the korban on the yontiv, you have another 7 days to make up for it. It's called tashlumin, which means if you didn't do it in the right time, you can do it another day, up until the 12th day. So therefore, up until the 12th day, it's still considered a continuation of yontiv. On the other hand, before Shavuos, really, it should be just today that you don't say Tachnun. But that says in Shulchan Aruch that every day before Shavuos, there was something going on which is part of the process of preparing for Matan Torah. And that's why, during that time, we don't say Tachnun. So, in this little few pages, it's just spelled out very clearly what was the preparation that they did every day, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And then the Torah was given on the 6th day. So the first day is this pasuk where it says, so today, they came in front of Har Sinai, and at that time, everybody became united, like Rashi says, Ki ish echad, v'leiv echad. And this was considered a preparation for Matan Torah because Rashi says when there were other places before this, there was division and there was machlekas, and therefore Hashem said they're not ready yet to receive the Torah. But now that they're united, now they're ready to receive the Torah. And we explained yesterday, just being in front of Har Sinai, which is a mountain where Hashem rests His Shekhinah, for that reason alone, everyone became united, and now they're ready for Matan Torah. That was day 1. Then was day 2. It says, "V'atem tila ma'amlechas kohenim v'gei kodesh." The Eibishter announced that on this day, all the Yidden will be considered mamlechas kohenim, v'gei kodesh. That it means Hashem is sort of declaring that you're becoming my nation. And the whole nation is as if they're all princes and kings and kahanim, and they're a holy nation. So that's why the second day of Sivan is number 2. The third day of Sivan, that's when there came the commandment, and see the pasuk, "V'yivalta esa'am saviv leimar yishom lechem aleis b'har." And they gave a warning that nobody should go up to the mountain. The mountain now became a holy place where the Shekhinah is there, and therefore no one is allowed to go up to the mountain. And that's also part of the preparation for Matan Torah. So that's number 3, day 3. Day 4 is what it says, you should be ready for the 3rd day. So Rashi says this is referring to the men and the women, that they should separate, not be together intimately from this day and on, because then they won't be considered pure for Matan Torah. So being that the Torah would be given 3 days later, they needed these 3 days of preparation. And number 5, which is the day right before Shavuos, that's the day that the Yidden said the famous words, Kol asher dibra Hashem na'aseh v'nishma. And I spoke about that yesterday as well. So this was all the preparation. And then on day 6, that's when the Eibishter gave the Torah. So we're now we're naturally re-experiencing everything that happened the first time. So that means today is also these things in the spiritual way. We're in front of Har Sinai, we're getting ready one way, tomorrow is another Hachana, and then comes Matan Torah. So now let's go back to the booklet here. We left off with the question, and that was number 53 and 54 in the beginning of the booklet, the first page. Good morning, Shira. And we have the pasuk, the first pasuk, rather the pasuk before the Torah was given. Let's look at it inside. In the booklet, it's on page, I think, 28. Yeah. 28 and 29. It says, Vaydaber Elokim es kol advarim ha'elu leimer, and God spoke all these words. And what did he say? Aneich Hashem Elokecha aser sadivus. So the question we asked was that the difference between the two names, Havaya and Elokim, is Havaya is godliness revealed, and Elokim is godliness concealed. That's why Elokim is the same gematria as the word Hateva, nature, because nature conceals godliness. And Havaya, the name Havaya, stands for, in fact, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, when a person pronounces that name, they should be thinking Hashem is Hoya, Hoiva, and Yiya, all at once. It means past, present, future. Basically, above nature. That's why miracles come from Shem Havaya, and things that are in natural come from Shem Elokim. So the question is, being that Matan Torah was the greatest revelation of Torah ever in history, so the appropriate name to be used should have been Vayidaber Havaya. Eibishter spoke to the Yidden, not Elokim. And then another thing which is similar to this is Vayitan Lacham. When Shabbos is over, the custom is that after davening, after Havdalah, we say Vayitan Lacham. Vayitan Lacham is brachas that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov, and therefore we repeat these brachas. We're going into a new week, we should have all the brachas. But how does that begin? Vayitan Lacham Elokim. If this is brachas, and not only that, the Gemara says this is like all the greatest brachas are included. So again, the name to be used should be Havaya, not Elokim. So the answer is that, yes, it's true that Elokim means concealment, but when you say the word concealment, it depends in what context it's used. There are a lot of words that if you just take them out of context, they could mean more than one thing. When they're in the context of a certain situation, then it has that meaning. Now, they tell a story that there was a chassid, there was a Rav, and another chassid was visiting him. And while he was visiting him, someone walks in and says, Rabbi, can I ask you a question? Shayla and halacha. I said, okay. He knew that it's not going to be long. And he asks him, he says, I'm a kohen. Can I take a divorced woman? He said, let me take a look. He opens up one sefer, opens up another sefer. Yeah, it's okay. And this chassid was visiting, like in shock. He's asking him whether a kohen could marry a divorced woman. And he looks here and there and he says it's okay. When it's a pasuk in Chumash, then it's not okay. We just had it in the parsha. So he waits till he says, what's going on? So he says, you don't understand. He's a wagon driver, very simple Jew. So he's asking me, being that he's a Kohen, could he take a lady who's a divorced woman on his wagon on a trip? It's not about marriage. It's about taking her on a wagon, a trip, like a taxi driver would ask, am I allowed to take a divorced woman in a taxi if I'm a Kohen? No. In other words, when you hear the question, could I take a Kohen? Again, in English, maybe take doesn't fit in, but in Yiddish, take is another word that's used for marriage. So it depends on what context it's used. It does mean concealment, but there's a concealment that's lower than reveal, and there's a concealment that's higher. In other words, just like in a person, thought is concealed. speech is revealed. What's going on in my thought is hidden. No one knows what's going on, coming out of my mouth. Everybody hears. Which is higher, thought or speech?
Thought.
Right. And what I feel consciously, I'm aware of. I know. What's going on deep down subconsciously, I don't know. Which is higher, which is deeper. What's deeper is what's hidden. So in that context, the more it's connected to the essence, the more hidden it is. When Hashem gave the Torah, this Hashem revealed his deepest essence to the hidden when he gave the Torah. And that's why the name of Elohim is Yireh. So therefore we have to know in what context. And the same with the brachas. That these are amazing brachas, and there are brachas that they include in them all potential brachas, and therefore it says that they're coming from Shem Elohim. Okay. Let's move on to number 55, 56, and 57. So, in general, we know everything can be connected to Mashiach, but there is a strong connection between Shavuos and Mashiach. So first of all, where's that connection? The connection is because we remember we brought the pasuk where it says B'yom Chasanasi, that Hashem refers to our marriage day, the day we got married. And the Gemara says, what does that mean? It means the day when we received the Torah. So Hashem is the Chasan, Yidden are the Kala, and the day that we got married, which established this relationship, was the day that we received the Torah. So if you remember, when we spoke about the difference between Purim, Pesach, and Shavuos, then in some places Pesach is also compared to the marriage. But the difference is, Pesach is the first stage of the marriage, and Shavuos is the final stage of the marriage. And we explained that when a marriage takes place, the first stage is the chassan gives the kala the ring. That's called kiddushin. And according to halacha, they're married. According to Torah, they're married. But the rabbis instituted that they're not allowed to live together as husband and wife until they do the next stage, which is the chuppah and the yichud. So in the olden days, there was a 12-day gap, 12 months in between. And today we do it all together. But these are two phases, two stages in the process of marriage. So the Gemara says that Pesach, going out of Mitzrayim, that was stage one. That was Erusin. And when we come to Shavuos, that's stage two. That's the chuppah. So that means that getting the Torah is not, in a sense, not a new yontif, is the final conclusion and culmination of the yontif of Pesach. Just like the second stage of marriage is completing the first stage of marriage. But there's another medrash. The other medrash says that's on a smaller scale, but on a much larger scale, receiving the Torah at Har Sinai, that's the Erusin, that's the first stage. When Mashiach comes, that's going to be the final stage. And it's not just throwing around words. It means to say that, what is marriage? When Hashem and Yidden become one. So when we got the Torah, we became one. But the mere fact that there was still room for Averas, Yitzhahara, Golos, and destroying the Beis Hamikdash, and all the things that happen, which are negative, means that that oneness with Hashem and the Yidden, and Hashem and the world, is not complete. Once Mashiach comes, there will no longer be any Yitzhahara, there'll never again be a Golos, there'll never again be anything that'll be negative. That means that we will see Hashem in the most open way. So our relationship with Him and His relationship with us and the world are going to be in the most complete way. So that's going to be the final stage of the marriage. So therefore, Matan Torah and Mashiach's coming, in a way, are the same. Matan Torah was the opening of this process, and took 3,300 and something years, and now comes Mashiach, that's the completion of the process. And then we're married for all of eternity. So, in general, for that reason alone, truth is connected to Geula. Also, there's another thing which the Rebbe talks about a lot. I think probably every single year, the Rebbe speaks about this, and that is that the day of Shavuos is connected to three people, and they're all connected to Mashiach. One of them is Moshe. Of course, Matan Torah is Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the connection to Geula? So you see on the page is a quote, Moshe hu goyel rishon, hu goyel achron. He's the first Redeemer, and he's the final Redeemer. On the server that raises the question, how could Moshe be the final Redeemer? The final Redeemer has to be a descendant of David HaMelech, which is not Moshe Rabbeinu. He has to be from the tribe of Yehuda. Moshe Rabbeinu was a Levi of a different tribe. So it's explained that even though physically he wasn't from the tribe of Yehuda, physically he will be someone else who's going to be Mashiach, takes out of Godless. But it'll be with the Kayach of Moshe Rabbeinu, which means the Neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu will unite with the Neshama of Mashiach, and together that'll bring the final Geula. But we see from this that Moshe Rabbeinu is not only the one who took us out of Golus in the past, but he'll be part of the process of taking us out of Golus in the future. And Shavuos is connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. The second one is the Baal Shem Tov, the David HaMelech. David HaMelech was nostalgic on Shavuos. That's the yahrzeit, day of passing. There's some communities have customs that on Shavuos they'll say the whole Tehillim, but that's the reason why in many communities, in fact most communities outside of Chabad, will read the story of Rus on Shavuos. Why? Because Rus was the ancestor. She's David HaMelech comes from Rus, and that's his day. He passed away on Shavuos. So David HaMelech is of course connected to Mashiach, because Mashiach is the descendant of David HaMelech. Not only descendant, is the Malchus of David HaMelech. This is the kingdom of David HaMelech that he's continuing. And the third person that's connected was the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was nostalgic on Shavuos, passed away on Shavuos. It was the first day of Shavuos. It seems that there was a period when people were not clear whether it's the first day or the second day. But the Rebbe Rashab made it clear and said that it's definitely on the first day Shavuos. So the Rebbe writes that these three, it's each one of their names begins with a letter that constitutes a word. The word is Miyad. Moshe, Yisrael, and David spells Miyad. So what's so special about the word Miyad? So the Rebbe makes reference to the Rambam. This we have to see inside. You look at the Rambam page. I don't have it here. That's strange. I think it's here. Yeah, page 62. Look at page 62. Good morning. Where the Rambam says, all the prophets said that we have to do tshuva to go out of Golus. And then he writes like this, Hifticha Torah, the Torah promised us, Shesev Yisrael lasses tshuva v'sev Galusan. At the end of the Golus, Yidden will do tshuva. This is one of the most powerful things to show us that we're living in the times when coming Mashiach was imminent. There was never such a generation that there was a global movement of tshuva. After there was a global movement, unfortunately, in the opposite direction. But the words of the Rambam is Yisrael and tshuva b'sev Galusan, and the next word is miyad hey negolim, and immediately they will go out of Golus. So I guess the word miyad is a word that's related to Geula, and therefore it's connected to these three. And the Rebbe also points out that this is a perfect time to strengthen a person's commitment to Chitas, because Chumash is Moshe Rabbeinu's sefer, Tehillim is David HaMelech's sefer, and Tanya is the Shem Tov sefer. But Tanya, even though it's written by the Alter Rebbe, but basically Tanya is the Chassidus that the Baal Shem Tov revealed, and the Alter Rebbe wrote it up in a way that we could all relate to it. Okay, let's turn the page a little bit. Let me see what we'll do now. I recognize it would be already short in time. Let me speak about number 63 and 64. 63 and 64. Well, the main point I want to bring out is number 64, where it says, these are the words, Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze. Now there is a pasuk, but it doesn't say exactly those words. It says, Torah Me'iti Teitze. Torah will come forth from me, which means one of the prophecies about Mashiach is that the Eibishter himself will teach us Torah. Torah says, Chadasha Me'iti Teitze, something new. So to understand what is the greatness of this Torah Chadash, first of all, what does it mean? So we have to make it clear that it's not Chas Hashem to be anything new. Torah was given at Har Sinai, and that never changes. But it means there'll be new insight, new understanding, deeper understanding of Torah, the kind of understanding that we never had revealed in the world before. So first I want to say, just as in general, there's another quote related to this, which will help us understand this quote. Number 63. Kol ma shetalmid vasig aseh l'chadash. Any words of Torah that a true Torah scholar will give, and it's a novel idea, a new idea, something which is a new teaching in Torah that was never known before. Nitna l'Moshe Messina was already given by Moshe at Har Sinai. On the surface, it seems to be like a contradiction of terms. You're saying that this is something new, and then you say, no, it's old, it was given at Har Sinai. So obviously, what does it mean? It means when Hashem gave the Torah at Har Sinai, everything was included in it. All the wisdom is included in it, but not everything was given away that it's revealed. So comes along someone like Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Meir, all these great sages, and they give their teachings of Torah, which is new. No one said this before, what they taught. That's why we have the Gemara, all the teachings of the different sages. So the Gemara says whatever they teach was given at Har Sinai, but there are certain parts of Torah that Hashem kept hidden because this has to be revealed in the world through Rabbi Meir, and this has to be revealed in the world through Rabbi Akiva, and this has to be revealed in the world through a different sage. And this has to be revealed in the world 1,000 years after the Torah was given. And that has to be revealed in the world 2,000 years later. And this is 2,500 years later. It means everything was given at Har Sinai, but it was destined to be revealed at a different time and through one of the sages of that time. But it was all included in the Matan Torah. So what's going to happen when Mashiach comes? What's going to be so unique then? It means that these are things that are so hidden that all the generations since the Torah was given, again, which is over 3,300 years, the greatest tzaddikim, the greatest Torah scholars, and the greatest people who had the vast knowledge of Torah and the deepest knowledge of Torah, nevertheless, this was something which was not able to be revealed. It was included, but it was hidden. And when Mashiach comes, Hashem will allow like a new door will open up and new wisdom will be revealed in the world that was never known before. Mainly, we're talking about the deeper mystical meaning of the things in Torah. And this is based on Pasuk and Shir Hashirim. I mean, it's based on so many other sources in Zohar and other places, but actually we always look for something which is more accessible, which is not necessarily in the hidden Torah, we find it in the revealed Torah, so it's in Rashi. The first pasuk in Shir Hashirim, the first pasuk begins Shir Hashirim Asher L'Shleimer. But the next pasuk, the second pasuk in Shir Hashirim says that Hashem will show his love to us and he will kiss us, which is a metaphor for him expressing his love to us. But Rashi says, what does that mean? It means that he will reveal the secrets of Torah which were never revealed before. So clearly, Mashiach, and so the Rambam also writes, when the Rambam speaks about Mashiach, he says at that time, people will know Hashem, they'll understand things about Hashem that we never understood before. And in fact, everybody in the world, the Yidden will have more knowledge because of the Torah, but Hashem will be revealed to everyone. So basically, it means that the deeper meaning, the mystical meaning of the different things in Torah, which now we learn Chassidus, we know a little bit, but it's there like a tip of the iceberg compared to what's going to be revealed when Mashiach comes. And that's why Mashiach will be teaching Torah to everyone. Who's going to be his students? His students will be all the Tanaim and all the Amoraim and all the Nevi'im and all the great tzaddikim that ever lived will be listening to Mashiach teaching Torah. That means he's going to be teaching something new for them, not just for us. So that's number 63 and 64. And the Rebbe would always point out that, generally speaking, we know that Chassidus teaches us that every Yontif, we talk about this in every single class of Yontif, just commemorating the past, but whatever happened the first time, spiritually reoccurs once again. That means spiritually, in a few days, Hashem is going to give us the Torah once again, the way it was given the first time. But all this is going to happen in a spiritual way, in a spiritual level, in the spiritual realm. We're not going to see physically Har Sinai and things happening on Har Sinai. It's happening spiritually. But nevertheless, if it's happening spiritually, we want to be able to absorb it. We want to be able to take all that spiritual light, take it in, and it should strengthen us. So we're preparing for Shavuos. And the more we're aware of it, the more we're able to absorb it consciously. But now we have another thing that we're thinking about. Not only are we anticipating Shavuos, that's going to be the day that we're able to re-experience Matan Torah, we're expecting that this Shavuos will be able to merit to bear the Torah Chadasha, the new teachings of Torah that Mashiach will teach us. And therefore Shavuos will be not only remembering and what happened before, but even deeper than that. And even though what I'm going to say now sounds like really shocking, and if it wouldn't be written in the Torah, it would be almost like, how could you say such words? But it's actually found in the Medrash. There's the book called Koheles, right? And Koheles begins with speaking about how everything in the world is hevel, which means it's vanity, it's vain, nothing, everything compared to Torah is vain. But the Medrash says that there's also another thing hidden in these words, and that is that the Torah we're going to learn and be taught when Mashiach comes, we can say that the Torah we're learning today is like hevel compared to the Torah that Mashiach will reveal. Which means, with all the wisdom we have, but if you compare it to the wisdom that's going to be revealed when Mashiach comes, it's almost insignificant. It's hard for us to relate to that. I guess the only way I think we could even possibly picture that in our mind is like comparing the way a child perceives things and the way an adult perceives things.
Rabbi, but we still learn Chassidut, and it's also part of the Torah of Mashiach.
Chassidus is already a beginning of revealing that, but what we understand today in Chassidus is also insignificant to what we'll understand these same Maimorim and Sichas once Mashiach comes. There was I'm not sure, but maybe from Chassidim, that when Mashiach comes, those who learn Chassidus, they'll have an advantage over who didn't. And what's going to be the advantage? They're going to be able to say, what does that mean? So explain, imagine you're listening to a conversation. Two people are having a conversation, and they're on the other side of the wall, and you're on this side of the wall. And you hear one word, a half a word, another word. You try to grasp what are they talking about, and you can't figure it out because you can hardly hear a full sentence. Everything's just a word here and a word there. Later you meet them and say, what was going on? I heard you talking, you're both loud about a certain stuff. You're talking about this. That's why I heard that word. That's why you were laughing. When Mashiach comes, we're going to be exposed to and be able to understand the deep concepts. We say, that's what it meant when we said Malchus or Yisoid or Teferes or Sfiras Eimer or whatever it is, which means what we understand now is very blurry, very cloudy, very unclear, very external. And when Mashiach comes, we'll have all the depth to it. Of course, we have to also bring in number 65 and 66, where the Gemara says that the Eibishter is the Yidden for a guarantor. Who's going to guarantee that you are going to actually keep Torah unconditionally? And the Yidden said, the Nevi'im, our prophets will guarantee. And Hashem said, no, that's not acceptable. Our Canim, our elders will guarantee, not acceptable. Our teachers will guarantee, not acceptable. Finally, they said, our children will be the guarantee. Then Hashem said, that is something which will guarantee that the Torah will continue. So basically, these three words mean Banenu, our children, Ervim, our guarantors, Ba'adenu, for us. And therefore, the Rebbe, in the 1970s, I forgot what year exactly, came out with a campaign. And the campaign was, first of all, every single one of us should be in shul when they read the Aseret Dibros. Normally, some people hear the Torah reading, some people come a little bit late, some people miss it. Women don't necessarily always go to shul to hear Torah. They can because of the children. But when it comes to Aseret Dibros, everyone, men, women, and children, and especially children, in fact, the Rebbe insisted that even infants that and only they're able to be brought to shul, they should be in the shul while we're reading the Aseret Dibros, because the Torah is connected to infants in particular. And I remember when the Rebbe spoke about it the first time, the first year, of course he spoke about it a few days before Shavuos. On the day of Shavuos, there was such a rain. It wasn't a rain, it was like a flood. It was like what we call torrential rains. It was coming down heavy. And it was almost like clear, like it must be so important that the children come to shul that there's something trying to block it from happening. But naturally, people came to shul anyway with raincoats and garbage bags and whatever you can have to protect yourself. But this is something very strong the Rebbe always emphasizes how important it is, again, because we're re-experiencing it. In fact, it says in the Medrash, this is one of those things that even without knowing Chassidus, it says in the Medrash, Hashem said to the Bnei Yisrael, if you go to shul and you hear the reading of the Aseret Dibros, I will consider it as if you're standing at Har Sinai and you're once again re-experiencing Matan Torah. Number 67 is these words. The meaning is Kabbalah Satera, to receive the Torah b'simcha b'pnimius. Again, something which we don't understand why, but the Rebbe made a very, very big issue out of this bracha. The Frierdiker Rebbe, whenever he wished anybody a bracha, when it comes to Tishrei, the traditional bracha is you should have a good, sweet year. When it comes to Pesach, the traditional bracha is you should have a kosher and freilich Pesach, a kosher and a happy Pesach. The bracha that he would give before Shavuos was Kabbalah Satera. We should merit to receive the Torah. B'simcha, receive it with simcha, or b'pnimius. And pnimius means it should be internalized. We should be able to absorb it internally. And quite a few times the Rebbe said to make sure, and everybody should make an effort that whoever they see, whenever they're wishing anyone a good yontif, they should include this bracha. Kabbalah Satera b'simcha b'pnimius. So if you start hearing it from different people, you know why. Number 68. Number 68 is something which is interesting, that there are a lot of people that celebrate Shavuos, and of course it's a yontif, but not even aware there's another whole dimension to Shavuos which is not talked about, and that's not only Matan Torah. In the Chumash, if you look in the Chumash about Yontif Shavuos, It does not say celebrate this day that the Torah was given. So what does it say? Anyone know? What does it say in Chumash on this day? Yeah?
Isn't it 50 days after Pesach?
And what's the celebration? What are you supposed to do?
Have a festival? I don't remember.
That's why I'm giving this class. That is the reason why I'm doing that. So let's look in the Chumash. Here, page what? Anyway, in the Chumash, the name of this Yom has a few names, by the way. It's called Shavuos. Has another name. It's called Chag HaBikurim. Bikurim means. I guess I did make a copy of the pasuk in Chumash. I'm surprised I didn't put it in, but it's a pasuk in Chumash where it says that this is the Yom Tov of Bikurim. And what does that mean? That a person should go into his field when he sees the first tree that's bearing fruits, not all fruits, just fruits which are the 7 species that in Eretz Yisrael are special in Eretz Yisrael, like grapes and pomegranates, those fruits, olives, tie a string around it when you see the first one. So now you know which one was the first. And then later you bring this first one to the Beis HaMikdash. And that's Bikurim. And basically it means I'm bringing the Beis HaMikdash to thank Hashem for giving me this bracha. I recognize that this is a bracha from Hashem, and I'm thanking Hashem. And let me just, it was really a big commotion, and I just want to see if we have it here. I brought it down, I wrote down in this book, page 75, where the Rambam described, it's very interesting to read, what happened on that day through Bikurim. How did they do it? Let's look at the Rambam, page 75, where there's an arrow on the bottom. Ketzad Mailam Bikurim. How do they bring the Bikurim? And if you maybe I'll read it. You can read it in the English. So he said like this: all the cities, all the men of all the smaller towns, they gathered together in one town. And in other words, people shouldn't come to Yerushalayim as individuals, they should come in groups. That makes it more beautiful. As it says, Brave Am Hadras Malach, that when there are a lot of people together, that brings out the glory of the king. When they come to Yerushalayim, they spend the night in the open street of the town, not in Yerushalayim, the town. They don't go inside the house because they shouldn't contract any tumor. And when you go to your Beis HaMikdash, you have to be tar. Early in the morning, there's a person who's in charge, and he says, come, let us go to Tzion. He's quoting a pasuk in Yirmiyahu. Kum v'nayla Tzion el Hashem Elokeinu. Let's go to Yerushalayim. And then ahead of this whole procession, this march, this parade of people, there was an ox. On the horns of the ox, they put gold and a wreath of olive leaves on its head to indicate that the first fruits were taken only from the Shivas Haminim, the 7 species. Someone was playing a flute in front of them as they reached Yerushalayim. They walked all the way, and they were saying the pasuk of Tehillim from chapter 122, the pasuk that reads, Samachti, I was so happy when they told me that we're going to Hashem's house. When they came to the outskirts of Yerushalayim, they sent messengers to let the people of Yerushalayim know that we are coming. And at this point, they decorated the first fruits and made them look more beautiful. And people came out from the Yerushalayim, from the Beis HaMikdash, to greet them. How many people came out to greet them? Depending on how many people were coming. If it was a bigger crowd coming, then more people came out. So in other words, from all over Eretz Yisrael, groups and groups of people were coming to Yerushalayim with the first fruit. And from Yerushalayim, they went out to greet them and bring them into the Beis HaMikdash. What did they do? They brought it into the Beis HaMikdash, put it down near the Mizbeach, and this was a gift that was given to the Kohanim. So, in the Chumash, it mentions nothing about Matan Torah. It just says, this is a Yom Tov of Bikurim. But what's the theme of this yontif? The theme of this yontif is basically showing gratitude to Hashem for all the brachas that He gives us. That's the theme of this yontif, and that's why we have the bikurim. There's still a little point that I want to explain about this. I think we'll leave this for tomorrow. To be continued. Okay. We still finish every class with to be continued.
Okay.
What?
I believe you have to discuss coming back for the second year.
The question is when.
I know.
Yeah, I think I made a bunch of meetings today. Let's see what's doing tomorrow. You read tomorrow at 10?
10 kilos?
Joining them.